There are 3 rectangular holes in the brick under my back porch. They sit down at ankle height, where the ground goes sandy near the fence line. The last owner stuffed all 3 of them full of spray foam. He thought he was saving on heat. He was drowning the house. Those holes are foundation vents. The dirt under a house gives off water. Gallons of it, every single day, just breathing up out of the ground. Those vents let it leave. Plug them, and the water has nowhere to go but into your floor joists. It sits there. The wood goes soft in about 6 years. That is 1. There are 7 of these in a house built before 1950. 7 parts that were doing real work, and we pulled them out or sealed them shut because nobody ever told us what they were for. I am going to walk you through all 7. But there is one thing about those vents you need before you touch yours. My granddaddy closed his every November. He had a reason, and if you get that reason backwards, you will make your house wetter than it started. I am Otis. Where I grew up in northern Alabama, the houses were older than anybody living in them, and they mostly looked after themselves. Nobody in that county could have explained the building science behind a single thing in this video. They just knew which parts of a house you leave alone. Second one, come around to the front bedroom, the window that looks out at the road. Take the trim off one side, and you will find a hollow chamber running the full height of the frame, about 4 inches wide, with an iron weight hanging in it on a cord. Every contractor who has ever seen one has offered to fill it with foam. Free heat, they tell you. It is not dead air. It is a chimney. That pocket runs from the sill up past the header and connects to the wall cavity. And when warm, wet air from your bedroom gets in there in February, it goes up and out through the gaps at the top. It is also the only path that section of wall has. Fill it, and you have not gained a degree anybody could measure. What you have done is put foam behind a piece of exterior trim that has been shedding water since before your grandmother was born. Now it cannot dry from the back. Third one is the chimney on the north side. Nothing has been burned in it since before I owned the place. Cold air came down it all winter, and I hated it. Every one of us in an old house has stood there thinking about a bag of insulation and a broom handle. Do not do it. That flue was pulling wet air out of the house for 80 years. Cooking, showers, laundry, 6 people breathing. All of it went up that pipe, day and night, whether anybody thought about it or not. Now I said cold air comes down it, and that is true, and it is real money, so close it properly. There is a damper that mounts at the top of the chimney with a cable running down to the firebox, somewhere around $300 installed. Shuts tight when you want it shut, opens when you want it open. What it does not do is sit up there permanently, stopping the one job that flue still had. Fourth one, walk around to the shady side of the foundation, the wall that never sees sun after 10 in the morning. If that is old brick or old stone, look at what is on it. If somebody has painted it with a thick modern coating, the kind that goes on like cake frosting and bridges every crack, that wall is in trouble. Old masonry gets wet. That is not a defect. Brick that old is soft and porous. It takes water in from the ground and from rain, and it always dried back out through the face. Limewash let it. Limewash is chalk and water, and it breathes better than the brick underneath. Put a modern sealed coating for that same wall, and the water still gets in, because water always finds a way in. It just cannot get back out. It sits behind the paint through one hard freeze and pops the face off the brick in sheets. Fifth one is over your head right now. Go open the hatch in the hall closet. Old attics were miserable. No insulation over the ceiling, gable vents standing open at both ends, wind moving through hard enough to lift the dust. Anybody who has climbed up there in August has thought the same thing, which is that this is a waste. Here is what that waste was doing. Warm, wet air leaks up out of a house all winter, through light fixtures, around pipes, up the inside of the walls. In an old attic, it hit air that was moving, and it left. Then we blew 14 inches of insulation across that ceiling and stopped there. Now the underside of the roof deck is colder than it has ever been. The same wet air is still leaking up into it, and there is nothing carrying it away. That is where black staining on the sheathing comes from. It is not a leak in your roof. It is your own bathroom. The insulation is not the mistake. Insulating without sealing the holes underneath it first is the mistake. Sixth one, walk out to the corner by the downspout and get down low enough to see the bottom of the wall. On an old house, the wooden sill does not touch dirt. It sits up on a course of stone or brick that stands 8 or 10 inches proud of the ground, and the ground falls away from the house, so splashing rain never reaches wood. We have spent 60 years undoing that. Flower beds against the foundation, a patio poured level with the sill, mulch piled halfway up the siding. Every one of those puts wet dirt in permanent contact with the one part of the frame you cannot replace without jacking the house up off it. This is the cheapest thing on the list. A shovel and an afternoon. Pull the grade back down until you can see daylight under the bottom course again. Seventh one, you cannot see at all. Take a board off the south wall of an old house, the wall where the paint held 60 years, and look at the back of it. The back is painted too, and behind it there is a gap, because that siding got nailed over rough boards that were never flat. That gap is what let the back of every board dry out after a storm. Modern siding goes on tight, tight over house wrap, tight over sheathing, no gap anywhere. It looks better. It dries from one side only. Now the part I promised about November, cold outside air, and January is dry air. It goes into that crawl space, warms up a little, and goes back out carrying water with it. That works. But in July, in Alabama, the air outside is soaked. Push that into a crawl space, where the ground holds everything at 68 degrees, and the water falls straight out of the air onto your ductwork and your joists. In summer, in a wet climate, an open vent can feed the problem it was built to solve. So he had it half right, and I want to say that plain. The men selling crawl space encapsulation are not lying to you. Sealing it up and laying plastic across the dirt beats venting, if you do the whole job. What does not work is what the last owner of my place did. Foam in the vents, bare dirt underneath, no plastic, no dehumidifier. That is not sealing a crawl space. That is putting a lid on a pot. So here is what actually transfers. Go look under your porch. If the vents are foamed shut and the dirt underneath is bare, pull the foam out this weekend. Get the grade away from your sill. Shovel, afternoon, no money. Before anybody adds insulation to your attic, seal the ceiling underneath it first. That is the order. It is always that order. And leave the window pockets alone. Whatever a contractor tells you they are worth, they are not. My granddaddy could not have told you the building science behind any one of these. He just closed the vents in November and opened them in April. I took that for an old man's habit for about 20 years. How old is your house? And how many of these 7 does it still have? Tell me down below.